My husband pushed the stack of papers across the table without looking at me. "You're going to sign these tonight, no more stalling." He finally met my eyes, his voice low and even. "Chloe already signed her portion. She's been the one keeping track of everything while you've been too busy to notice what's really happening with the accounts." His fingers tapped the top page once sharp and final. "If you keep fighting this, I'll have the bank statements and the discrepancies sent to every client you still have left. Your choice." Hi, my name is Olivia Bennett. I am 29 years old. I sat there in our kitchen, the same kitchen where we used to eat takeout on Friday nights, and talk about someday buying a little house with a yard. The papers in front of me were transfer documents for the business accounts I had built from nothing after college. My marketing consulting firm had grown steadily, nothing flashy, just steady clients and careful work. Nathan had always said he was proud of me. Until that night, I believed him. Chloe, my younger sister, had been staying with us more often the last few months. She said her apartment lease was up and she needed a place to land while she figured things out. I had welcomed her without hesitation. She was only 24, still finding her footing, and I remembered how hard those first years after college could be. Nathan had been supportive too, or so I thought. He helped her set up interviews, even let her use the spare room as a makeshift office. I had been grateful. That night after he dropped the papers in front of me, everything I thought I knew rearranged itself in one long, quiet minute. Chloe had been the one feeding him information about my client list and the payment schedules. She had been the one who noticed when I moved a small emergency reserve into a separate account after a big client paid late. She had told him it looked suspicious. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't cry, I just asked one question. "How long have the two of you been going through my files?" Nathan leaned back in his chair like we were discussing the weather. "Long enough to see you were never going to put this family first. Chloe understands that sometimes you have to make hard choices for the people you love." I folded my hands on the table so he wouldn't see them shaking. "You want me to sign over control of the business accounts to you and my sister. That's what this is." He nodded once. "It keeps everything in the family, protects us if anything happens to you." Chloe's already agreed to be a co-signer. She's shown more loyalty in 6 months than you have in 3 years of marriage. I stood up slowly. The chair legs scraped against the floor. I walked to the counter, poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink, and stared out the window at our small backyard. The string lights I had hung last summer still glowed faintly. I remembered Chloe helping me hang them laughing when one got tangled in her hair. That memory felt like it belonged to someone else now. Later that night, after Nathan went to bed, I sat on the edge of the tub with the bathroom door locked and called my friend Laura. She answered on the second ring voice, thick with sleep. "Olivia, it's almost midnight. Everything okay?" I kept my voice low. "Nathan and Chloe want me to sign the business over to them. They said they already have paperwork ready. Chloe signed her part tonight." There was a long pause. Laura knew both of them. She had been at our wedding. She had watched Chloe grow up alongside me. "Tell me exactly what they said," she answered suddenly, wide awake. I repeated it as calmly as I could. When I finished, Laura exhaled hard. "You need to talk to someone who understands contracts. Not tomorrow. Tonight if you can. I have a name, Daniel Reeves. He helped my sister with her LLC last year. He's straight and he doesn't scare easy. I'll text you his number." I thanked her and hung up. I didn't go back to the bedroom. I slept on the couch with my phone in my hand, the screen lighting up every few minutes with the contact Laura sent. The next morning, Nathan left early for work without saying goodbye. Chloe was still in the guest room, door closed. I made coffee I couldn't taste and opened my laptop at the kitchen table. The transfer documents were still sitting where he had left them. I didn't touch them. Instead, I opened the shared cloud folder we used for household bills. 3 new files had been added in the last week. One was a spreadsheet with my client payment history. Another was a draft email addressed to 2 of my biggest clients written in Nathan's voice suggesting they might want to reevaluate their contracts given recent concerns about financial stability. The third file was a scanned copy of my signature practiced slightly off on a blank sheet. I closed the laptop. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight in a way that made it hard to draw a full breath. I called the number Laura had sent. Daniel Reeves answered on the first ring, professional and calm. I told him I needed to understand what signing those papers would actually mean. He asked me to scan and send them. While I waited for his reply, I walked through the house we had rented together for 2 years, touching the framed photos on the wall. Most of them included Chloe now, holiday dinners, a weekend trip to the coast, the 3 of us at a farmer's market. Every single one suddenly looked staged. Daniel called back within the hour. His voice stayed even, but the words landed like stones. "Olivia, these documents, don't just give them access. They restructure the business as a partnership with your sister listed as a managing member. If you sign, you lose unilateral control. They could move funds, change vendors, even sell client lists without your approval. And the way it's written, you'd still carry personal liability for any debts they create. I sat down on the edge of the couch. They said it was to protect the family. Daniel was quiet for a moment. I see this kind of language a lot. It usually means someone wants control without the risk. You don't have to sign anything today. In fact, I strongly advise against it until we review every account and every communication they've had access to. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet house and let the facts settle. My husband and my younger sister had been working together behind my back for months. They had gone through my private business files. They had drafted emails to my clients. They had prepared documents that would strip me of the one thing I had built completely on my own, and they had expected me to sign it all away in the same kitchen where we used to laugh about our future. I didn't cry. I didn't call Nathan. I opened my phone and started making a list of every account, every password I had ever shared, every client who might have received one of those draft emails. The list grew longer than I wanted to admit. That afternoon, while Nathan was still at work and Chloe was out running errands, I drove to the small office space I rented for client meetings. I sat at my desk with the door locked and pulled every file I could access. Some of the recent invoices had notes attached, notes I hadn't written. One client had been told I was taking a step back for personal reasons and to direct future questions to a new contact email that wasn't mine. I forwarded everything to Daniel. Then I sat back in my chair and stared at the wall. The framed photo of the three of us at the coast still sat on the corner of my desk. Chloe's arm was around my shoulders. Nathan was smiling at the camera. I reached over and turned the frame face down. The phone on my desk rang. It was Nathan. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. "Olivia, we need to finish this conversation. Chloe's worried you're not thinking clearly. Call me back before you do anything stupid." I deleted the message without replying. That night, I stayed at the office until the building's security lights clicked on. When I finally drove home, the house was dark except for the light in the guest room. Chloe's door was closed. Nathan's car was in the driveway. I parked on the street instead of pulling in behind him. I sat in the car for a long time with the engine off, watching the house I used to think of as ours. Inside, the transfer papers were still on the kitchen table where I had left them. No one had moved them. I walked past them without looking and went upstairs to pack a bag. I didn't know where I was going yet. I just knew I wasn't signing anything, and I wasn't staying in that house another night pretending nothing had changed. As I zipped the bag, my phone lit up with a text from Chloe. "Olivia, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Nathan and I are only trying to help. You're not yourself lately." I didn't answer. I carried the bag downstairs, left the house key on the counter next to the unsigned papers, and walked out the front door. The street was quiet. A neighbor's dog barked once in the distance. I got in my car and drove until the houses gave way to open road, and the only light came from my headlights and the stars overhead. I didn't know what came next. I only knew that whatever happened, it would not be on their terms. The highway stretched empty ahead of me as I drove through the dark. I didn't have a destination yet, only the need to put distance between myself and the house where the man I had married and the sister I had trusted were waiting for my signature. I pulled into a small motel off the interstate a little after 2 in the morning. The clerk barely looked up when I paid in cash for one night. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant, but it was quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed with my bag at my feet and finally let myself breathe. Looking back, the signs had been there for months, quiet at first. My husband had started asking more questions about client payments, about when invoices cleared. He said it was because he worried about me carrying too much. My younger sister had echoed him, always gentle, always concerned. "You work so hard, let us help carry some of it." I had believed them both. The next morning, I woke to a string of texts. From my husband, "Where are you? This is childish. Come home and we can talk like adults." From my younger sister, "I'm worried about you. He says you left without saying anything. Please, call me. We can figure this out together." I didn't answer either. Instead, I called Daniel Reeves and asked if he could meet me that afternoon. He suggested a coffee shop near his office neutral ground. When I arrived, Daniel was already there with a legal pad and a calm expression. He was in his 40s, steady, the kind of person who didn't waste words. I showed him the new messages and the files I had found. He read through them without comment at first. Then he looked up. "They've been positioning this for a while. The draft email to your clients is particularly concerning. If they sent even one of those, it could damage your reputation before you have time to respond." I nodded. "What do I do now?" You document everything he said, every text, every file, access, every change to shared accounts. We can send a formal letter demanding they cease any representation of your business. But I need to be honest with you, this is going to get messier before it gets cleaner. As we talked, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The message played on speaker when I checked it later. It was my husband again, voice tighter. If you don't come back and handle this, I'm going to have to protect myself. She and I have already spoken to someone about the best way forward. Don't make us do this the hard way. Daniel listened to the voicemail once. That's pressure, classic. They want you isolated and scared, so you'll sign to make it stop. I left the coffee shop with a list of steps from Daniel change all passwords, notify the bank in writing that my husband and younger sister were no longer authorized on any business matters, and consider speaking with a family law attorney if the pressure continued. He also gave me the name of someone he trusted for that side, Rachel Klein. That evening, I checked into a different hotel further away. I spent hours on the phone with the bank, then with 2 clients who had received odd emails asking about updated billing contacts. One client, a longtime one named Marcus Hale, called me directly. Olivia, I got an email from an address that looked like yours, but the name was different. It said to send future payments to a new account. I didn't reply. Is everything all right on your end? I told him as much as I could without details. There's been some internal confusion. Please ignore any emails that don't come from my verified address. I'm handling it. Marcus was quiet for a second. If you need a reference or someone to vouch for you with other clients, let me know. You've always been straight with me. That small offer of support from someone outside the circle felt like the first solid ground in days. But the pressure didn't let up. That night, my younger sister called from my husband's phone. I answered because I wanted to hear it directly. Olivia, why are you doing this? Her voice was soft, almost hurt. He is trying so hard to keep everything together. You're the one making it difficult. If you just sign the papers, we can all move forward. The business will be safer with both of us involved. I kept my voice steady. You went through my files without asking. You helped him draft emails to my clients. That's not helping. That's taking. She sighed like I was being unreasonable. You're seeing it wrong because you're stressed. We've only ever wanted what was best for you, for the family. I ended the call without answering. Family. The word had been used like a weapon. The next day brought the first real escalation. An email arrived from the bank. They had received a request to add my husband and younger sister as authorized users on the business line of credit. The request had been flagged because it didn't match the signature on file. They wanted confirmation from me before proceeding. I forwarded it to Daniel immediately. He called back within minutes. This crosses a line. They're trying to move fast while you're off balance. We need to lock everything down today. While I was on the phone with Daniel, another text came from my husband. The bank just called me. You're making this worse. She is crying because she thinks you're going to destroy everything we've built. Stop being selfish. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the bank in person with Daniel on a speaker the whole way. We sat in the parking lot while he walked me through the exact language to use to revoke all access. By the time I finished at the bank, the sun was setting again. I sat in my car and looked at the list on my phone. Passwords changed, bank notified clients, warned documents saved to a secure drive Daniel had set up. It should have felt like progress. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of something I couldn't see the bottom of. My phone rang. It was Rachel Klein, the family law attorney Daniel had recommended. She had already reviewed the basic facts I had sent her earlier. Olivia, based on what you've described, we should file for a temporary order preventing your husband from accessing or representing your business interests. We can also address the marriage side if you're ready. But I need you to understand this is going to be public record eventually. Are you prepared for that? I sat with the question for a long moment. Public. The financial details of my small, carefully built life laid out for strangers to see. My clients might find out. My parents might find out. The quiet life I had tried to protect would be exposed. But the alternative was signing away the only thing that was truly mine. I think I have to be, I said. Rachel's voice stayed calm. Then we'll start tomorrow. In the meantime, keep documenting. And if they contact you again, refer them to me. I thanked her and hung up. The car felt too quiet after that. I started the engine and drove without a clear direction, just needing motion. As I merged onto the highway, my phone lit up with a notification from a social media app I rarely used. It was a tagged post from my younger sister. The photo was of her and my husband sitting at our kitchen table, the transfer papers visible between them. The caption read, Sometimes family has to make hard choices together, praying for clarity and unity. She had made it public, not the full story, just enough to paint me as the difficult one. I pulled over at the next exit. My hands were steady on the wheel, but something inside me had shifted. They weren't just trying to take the business anymore, they were trying to control the narrative around it. I opened the message thread with Laura and typed quickly. They went public. Can I stay with you for a couple nights? I need somewhere to think. Her reply came fast. Of course, doors open, drive safe. I turned the car around and headed toward the only person who had believed me without question so far. Behind me, the highway stretched back toward the life I was leaving. Ahead, I didn't know what waited, only that I wasn't signing those papers and I wasn't going back to pretend the betrayal hadn't happened. The phone buzzed again as I drove. Another text from my husband. I didn't read it. I let it sit unread while I kept moving forward. The drive to Laura's apartment took just over an hour. She met me at the door with a quiet hug and didn't ask for explanations right away. She simply cleared the spare room and told me I could stay as long as I needed. That first night, I slept for 10 hours straight, the kind of sleep that comes when your body finally stops bracing for the next demand. Over the next few days, the legal steps moved faster than I expected. Rachel filed the paperwork for a temporary order. Daniel helped me lock every remaining account and redirect client communications through verified channels only. Marcus Hale called again, this time to say 2 other clients had asked him if I was stepping away. He told them I was handling some personal matters and that my work was still reliable. His quiet loyalty gave me something to hold on to while everything else shifted. My husband and younger sister kept reaching out. The texts grew shorter and sharper. One from my husband read simply, "You're going to regret making this public." One from my younger sister said, "I never thought you would choose a business over your own family." I saved every message and forwarded them to Rachel without replying. 10 days after I left the house, Rachel called with news. The temporary order had been granted. My husband and younger sister were legally barred from accessing or representing the business in any way. It was a partial win, but Rachel was clear about the cost. "The marriage is likely over," she said, "and the relationship with your sister may not recover. Are you ready for both of those doors to close?" I sat on Laura's couch with the phone to my ear and answered honestly, "I think they already closed the moment they decided I didn't get a say." She paused. "They've requested one final mediated conversation. They want to avoid going straight to formal divorce proceedings. There's a neutral mediator named James Porter who can host it virtually. It might give you a chance to state your boundaries clearly before things become more adversarial." I agreed, mostly because I wanted it finished on my terms, not theirs. The call happened 3 days later. James Porter joined first calm and professional, then my husband and younger sister appeared on screen together. They sat side by side at the kitchen table I used to eat at every morning. The transfer papers were nowhere in sight this time, but the tension was the same. My husband spoke first. "This has gone far enough. You've made your point. Sign the documents and we can put this behind us. The business stays in the family where it belongs." My younger sister leaned forward, her voice softer, but no less pointed. "You're hurting all of us by dragging this out. Mom and Dad are worried. Everyone is worried. If you would just stop fighting, we could all move on." I kept my voice even. "The business is not a family asset you get to divide because you want it. It's mine. I built it. I will continue to run it without either of you having access or input." James Porter let the silence sit for a moment before asking if there was any room for compromise. My husband's answer was quick. "The only compromise is her signing. Otherwise, we'll have to protect ourselves another way." I looked directly at the camera. "There is no compromise that includes giving you control of something that was never yours to begin with. The temporary order is already in place. I won't be signing anything. And from this point forward, all communication goes through Rachel or James. I'm done negotiating with people who went behind my back and then tried to make me feel selfish for noticing." My younger sister's face tightened. "You're really choosing to end everything over this, your marriage, your family." I answered without raising my voice. "You both chose to end it the night you prepared documents to take what I built, and then pressured me to sign while calling it protection. I'm only refusing to pretend it didn't happen." James Porter stepped in, then guiding the conversation toward next steps. The mediation ended without agreement. My husband logged off without another word. My younger sister lingered for a second, eyes glassy, before the screen went dark. After that call, the divorce moved forward. Rachel handled the filings. I found a small apartment closer to my office and moved my things out of the house while my husband was at work. Laura helped me carry boxes. We didn't talk much, but her steady presence kept the silence from feeling too heavy. The business stabilized. Most clients stayed once they saw consistent work and verified communication. A few drifted away after the social media post my younger sister had made, but Marcus Hale brought in 2 new referrals to replace them. Daniel continued as my go-to for any financial questions. Rachel became someone I could call when the paperwork felt overwhelming. My younger sister tried to reach me once more through an email short and pleading. She said she missed me and hoped we could talk without lawyers. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Rachel and asked her to respond that all future contact should go through legal channels. I didn't write back myself. The door I had closed needed to stay closed. My husband never reached out again after the mediation. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. The house we had rented together went back to the landlord. I kept my business accounts, my client list, and the quiet certainty that I would never again hand someone else the keys to what I had earned. There were nights when the loss felt sharp. I missed the version of my marriage I had believed in. I missed the sister who used to stay up late watching movies with me. Those people had never really existed in the way I thought. The versions that remained had shown me exactly how little they valued my voice when it stood in the way of what they wanted. I learned slowly and without drama that trust is not something you give because someone shares your last name or your home. It is something that has to be earned through consistent actions, especially when no one is watching. My husband and my younger sister had shown me who they were willing to become when they thought I wouldn't notice. I chose not to spend the rest of my life managing the damage they were willing to cause. Today my life is smaller in some ways and steadier in others. I run my business from the small apartment. I see Laura for dinner once a week. Daniel and Marcus still check in when big decisions come up. James Porter sends the occasional professional update when something from the old paperwork surfaces. I don't have the family I once pictured, but I have the one I chose to protect myself and the work I built. I still carry the quiet ache of what was lost. Some days it feels like a permanent scar rather than a healed wound. But I also carry the knowledge that I did not betray myself to keep the peace. That choice cost me a marriage and a sister. It gave me back the right to decide what stays in my life and what does not. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever had to decide how much of yourself you were willing to hand over just to keep people from being angry with you, what was the moment that finally made you stop?